Okay, my name is Heike Griffiths, and I work for the University of Wales, Trinity St David's, which is based in Carmarthen, Swansea, Lavender, Birmingham, and London as well. Many people don't know that. So what do I do? What does a lecturer do? So I have deliberately dressed how I always dress, unless I'm absolutely forced to dress up because I'm not a dressy up person. So I do my lectures like that because people often have this kind of preconceived idea of what a lecturer is. And I will come to that when I actually landed this job, what happened then a little bit later on. So I teach teaching assistants and learning support assistants. So people who are working in schools, and usually they are the type of women who have children, and that's why they work in a school, because then they can have the holidays with their children and they can be home by 3:30 as well. Well, hopefully. Actually, lately, last 2 years, definitely not.
I beg to differ there.
So it's not very good money as a teaching assistant or learning support assistant. It seems to be a very rewarding job because I notice they seem to be extremely motivated to do the work well. So we do the lectures to suit them. So we do them in the evening, sometimes weekends. We have contact time in the evenings, and they fit it all in really somehow. And sometimes it's a struggle. So we take the degree, we teach it in Swansea on our new campus, and we take it to Moncton as well, to the community school there. And that's a very interesting venture there. It's been going on for about 11 years. So in Moncton, we have people doing this degree, and they can do a BA top-up year as well and come out with a full BA, who would never have dreamt of doing a degree, who don't probably know many people who have a degree, and in some cases they don't know what a degree is before they start. So the school has got like a community officer who is extremely capable, and in Moncton, there's I don't know if you know Moncton. Does anybody know Moncton?
No.
No, you would have absolutely no reason to go there. It's one of the most deprived wards in Wales, and it's just right behind a pretty little town of Pembroke.
Okay,
So you drive through Pembroke and then you're straight into Moncton, and it is basically a very large housing estate and a few other houses, and that's about it really. So the Moncton Community School has got 30% of pupils from Gypsy, Romany, traveller background, and they have a special classroom where they can even do their secondary education there. And it's all about gaining trust. So Kelly, the family officer, she put on some courses for people to get their site certificates for the men. And then a lady from community ed came in and asked the women, well, what do you want to do? We can do some cake decorating, or maybe, basket weaving or painting. And they said, we want to do our GCSEs. She was like, oh, okay. We want to have something serious. And there again, you see the difference how men and women get treated. Sometimes so the men was like, yes, do something useful for your career. And the women, oh, you can learn how to decorate a cake, which can also be a career and has actually become for many women during COVID. I've noticed on Facebook, everybody's selling cakes now. But it was slightly patronizing, really. So then they started having women from Moncton working in the school, and we were offering our foundation degree. So it's basically a 3-year degree, which is part-time, so it could be taught over 2 years or even a year and a half, but we do it over 3 years so that people can have a little bit more time to complete things and to get everything else done. And so the women were keen actually on doing the degree. Sometimes it's the odd man on there as well, but they wouldn't travel to Carmarthen. So I've noticed people from Moncton to travel to Carmarthen seems like as if they're going to a foreign country. So we said, okay, we'll come to you then. And it's worked absolutely brilliantly. And that's one lesson I've learned is with the right conditions, people can certainly achieve what they want. But sometimes these organizations, whether it's a building firm or a recruitment agency or university, you have to change things around a little bit to attract the right sort of people. So, yeah, so what's in a name? My name is Heike. If you've noticed, that's a little bit foreign sounding, really. I don't know how to use this thing on now. Is that my... there we are. Woo. So people often have a slight problem remembering my name, and then they call me. What do you think people call me?
Heike. Heike.
Heike, yes, or even worse. Think Alps, little girl.
Heidi.
Heidi, yes. So actually, a lot of people call me Heidi because they just think, there's something we know.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's actually pronounced Heike. So, and then, yeah, sometimes I have my hiking boots on, so it's like hiker, but without the R. And why am I making this point? Is it just a little pet hate of mine? But I think our names are important because they are our identity. And I think it is actually part of setting boundary or being assertive is to ensure that people know how to pronounce your name. Anya is my daughter, and she was landed with this name, which she sometimes hasn't liked, but it's definitely you. So, yeah, I think it's important that, you know, it starts with that, isn't it, really? Then, you know, people call us what we want to be called. So I think it's really important to celebrate International Women's Day. The first time I came across it wasn't actually that long ago. It was when I was teaching English in Trinity, and it was an all-female class with this lovely Polish man in there, and I didn't know it was International Women's Day, and he came with a bunch of red roses, and he gave each of us a red rose, and I was so chuffed. I really was. We were all so pleased, and it was his way of showing his respect. And I Googled it then, and it actually International Women's Day originated in the Soviet Union countries. So it was a day to celebrate the women's achievements, and I think it's really nice and it's spread west, and that we are all celebrating. So yeah, so what's my story? You might all want to know. Bit small. This shows a map of Europe, by the way, with an arrow going from Germany to Wales. So I'm totally different to Emma and Ronja. I'm not one of these people who started working at 17 and had a baby at 18 and was a millionaire at 21. Certainly not. So I did it the other way around, actually. So I was in Germany. I also started a degree in Germany, but just like Emma, it was just a lifestyle thing. You could get student tuition fees and a living grant and all of that. And I thought, sounds better than working to me. So I started the degree. I don't think I attended more than 3 lectures. And then they kicked me off, obviously, after semester 1 of not submitting anything. and that was that. So I was looking, what could I do? What could I do? And this was in 1989, 1990. And of course, a big change had happened in Germany. I don't know if any of you can think of it. Yeah. Yeah, so
Okay, I'm gonna take a seat.
hi.
Sorry. Thank you.
So Well, that's strong, you know.
Berlin Wall, 1989, Berlin Wall.
Oh, yes. Yeah, bit of history. Bit of history. So Germany was in a great state of change, obviously, and there was no housing to be found for love or money, which is a situation we are all familiar with now. Actually, yeah, trying to find a rented property has become nearly impossible. So back then there was no internet. I remember us getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get the newspapers, paper newspapers, hot off the press, and phoning at 4:45 in the morning, and then say, sorry, it's gone. So, I mean, we have exactly the same situation now, only on the internet, isn't it? So I didn't feel very happy there, really. It was all too much for me. And somebody gave me the address of a small holding in Bankforsville near Pontevedra. And they said, oh, why don't you stay there for a bit? You can just help out, they'll feed you, they'll give you a bit of pocket money, but you won't need much. And that's what I did. I took the train to Wales with no actual plan in my head of how long I was going to stay, how this was going to work out, or whatever. I just thought, yeah, let's try that. So, yeah. So I said earlier on, before you came, that I'm a lecturer. So you may ask now, how did I come, I don't know if you can see that, how did I move from being a farm volunteer to mother of 3, one yes, got 2 siblings, to a lecturer? It's a bit of a journey. So, so if you look at this very academic graphics, that's how it actually worked, really. It's not the straight line. No? And there's a meme here, and memes are never 100% right, are they? And I don't actually agree with it. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. So that sounds really good on the face of it, but is that really true? Probably not always, is it? You, like one year said, you have to think about your situation and think about yourself. It's not only what you dream up. You can't be anything you dream up. It has to be realistic as well, really. So, yeah. So what happened then? I need to look at my notes now, what I meant to say. Yes, so I arrived in Trinity Farm Limited, a very small concern. They were an organic farm converting to biodynamic farming. And she had 3 children, a farmer woman, and they had a load of volunteers staying there. So we had a great time just getting stuck in. I arrived on a bleak January day. It was incredibly damp. I'm used to it now. I slept in a little room above the cow shed, and I just mucked in wherever really. They had a few cows, they had some goats, and my first challenge was to learn to milk a goat. Has anybody ever milked a goat? No. They're quite awkwardly. They're stubborn. So when they know that you don't know how to milk a goat and you try to milk it, they just go. So, and that was my first lesson in Wales about being nice, because I'd never been not nice to an animal. But also being assertive, showing them who's boss. And that's the first new skill I learned when I came to Wales, was to milk a goat. So simple, but very nice, actually. I helped a lot with the children as well, so that was nice. And taking the cattle out to the field, mucking out, gardening, and just having fun with the other volunteers. And then who should I meet? Wanya's father. Risky person. I should have left when I got to my meeting. And then she thought, I'm intrigued. I want to and so we got together, and in fairly quick succession, we had 3 children. Wanya is the middle child, you can tell. And so my life changed completely. So we actually decided then to buy a building plot, because Fred was a builder, and build our own house. So I was like sort of away from the farming, from the organic. And because I hadn't had really a career before, I didn't feel I lost much because we still had a big garden and we bought a plot in the country. And I took to being a mum quite well, I'd say. I just enjoy doing things with them in the country. We were quite isolated, and there was a play school. There was a back then called mother and toddler group, and I just went with the flow. So those of you who listened to Ronja early on, my life as a mum was completely different to Ronja's life as a mum. And then my interest grew in. I wouldn't have been interested in that before. My interest in children and how they tick and how we teach them and what goes down for children grew by becoming a mother. So I started volunteering in the mother and toddler group to run it. In the Escort Matron, I was the treasurer for a while. Money never worked out. That's one thing I never put my name down for now is accountancy. That's not me. Yes, yeah, that's right. And so I slowly started taking on little responsibilities to do with the children. And I'm always a little bit kind of spiritual, hippie, alternative. So there was a course being offered for, I don't know how I heard about it, about teaching human values in schools. And it was like you go in, you read a story, you sing a song, you do an activity, and you do a bit of yoga and meditation. And I thought, beautifully. So I went on this course, and then I offered to do this in one school, which is not
She loved it then.
But I was a stay-at-home mum, totally. And then computers started getting hold of the world, and the kids came home with computer stuff. And we thought, well, we better buy a computer for them, really. We were comfortable by then. I think we built a house, we moved in, we were okay. But his dad was earning all the money, and I was doing all the household sort of things, children's things. So we bought a computer, it arrived, all the cables were color-coded. I set it all up, plugged it all in, and I thought, I don't know how to turn this on. This is a long time ago, isn't it? I thought, I've never turned a computer on in my life. And back then, through the European Fund, there was lots of free European Computer Driving License, ESDL courses being offered internationally. I thought, oh, I'd go on one of those. And that's all you had to do is turn up, really. It was free. And so that was really good. And I so enjoyed being out there, like Ronja says, amongst adults, not doing children's things. And I could see how this computer would come in handy for me as well, not just for the homework. And when that course had finished, it's not a terribly big course, it's like 2 hours a week for a while. I thought, I want to do another course. What do I want to do? I had no idea. So they had an open night, and the careers advisor, sat me down, and I actually did do A-levels in Germany. And she said, I said, what courses have you got? And she said, well, you should go to Trinity. You should do a degree. And I felt at that time so far away from doing a degree, it was unbelievable. I've been home with my 3 children for, good God, I don't know, maybe 12 years. 12 years. And never really worked anything serious. I had to have some jobs, but before that, and yeah. And I said, I can't do that. I've got 3 children. My husband's always working. And she says, well, my husband is a long-distance lorry driver. He's never home. And I've got 3 children, and I did it. And she said, and I got a really good job now, and I think you can do it. So I'm like, you can do it? Maybe I can do it. So she showed me the prospectus of Trinity, and there were 2 courses that caught my eye. One was called Social Inclusion, which is about society and who's included and who's excluded. And one was Education Studies, which is about how the education system works in schooling. And I said, I like that one, and I like that one, but I don't know which one I should do. She said, you do both. It's a joint honours. So you do them both together. It's like, okay, I'm in. Within a week, I was a student in Trinity. This was just before September, or in September. And because it happened so fast and I didn't have any time to think about it, I sort of did it. I just started. And that was really amazing, actually. So I took every opportunity I could to skill myself up. So I needed a bit of help with my English, which was, you know, pretty fluent. But academic English is a huge challenge for somebody, for most people actually. But if you've learned English, of course, it's another challenge on top of that. So, we're still on slide 4. I think this is a long slide, sorry. So I finished my degree with a first class honours. I was one of 2 people, nowadays people get more first class honours, but I was one of 2 and I was really proud. I don't know, do you remember my graduation? You do.
Oh, yeah.
And
First time I ever saw you in a dress.
yeah, and I was proud for me and I was proud for my family because they had all supported me, and I thought it was a really good thing just to have that under my belt. So what's next? So I had started a little, really like a little business, but it wasn't very good because I didn't set it up correctly. Teaching yoga and these human value things in schools. But then after the degree, I thought, right, now I want to work with adults. I need experience with adults. So I worked for Turning Point as a peer mentor for people who want to stop drinking and doing drugs or doing less of it. So I did that for a while. And there was probably really similar to People Plus Workways. Is that quite similar?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was then taking people to Workways to do like CVs and whatever, confidence building and stuff like that. And then they spotted me. Oh, are you working? I said, no. Oh, you can get onto our books, they said. I said, yeah, why not? So from the volunteering came this offer of support. It would have been there for me if I hadn't volunteered, but I wouldn't have even known about it, to be honest. So they sat me down, they said, well, you've done your degree, you're sort of ready now to apply for a job, aren't you? I said, I guess so. I don't know. So we looked, and they really helped me. They really, really helped me. So we looked for jobs, and when I found one that I wanted to apply for with the council, actually they sat me down.
I'm very, very sorry. My other friend wanted to come here. She just
Yeah, of course.
So it was a job for the council working with young adults and teenagers with learning disabilities, and I wanted to apply for it. And I could do sort of the written thing okay, because as a second language speaker, then you have time to think before you write it. But they really gave me some coaching lessons for the job interview. We practiced it, which was really, really useful. And I got the job. And it was the best job I've ever had. Even better than Trinity. So, what was so good about it? That we were quite free flow what we could do with people, and that we were really making a difference. And it was also European funding. You can tell I'm a pro-European, and it was funded for 2.5 years. And then they said, we might, fund it for a bit longer. They funded it for 1 more year, and then they closed us down. So at that time, we were working with 200 young people all over Carmarthenshire, taking them surfing, going in their schools, talking to them, talking to their parents, psychology support, peer mentoring. We were doing loads of stuff. And they closed us down. So all of us, there were 7 of us on the team, we were all looking for the same sort of job, and we couldn't find one. So what happened was so sometimes it's really weird when you're a woman, I just went to It's fine. when you're a woman, you're sometimes disadvantaged, aren't you? Like, so you go through these things, you have a baby, you have physical things, you have your period, you have menopause, you have all these things happening for you, some worse than others, I suppose. And I had applied for jobs everywhere, and I had also applied for a lecturer's job in Trinity. They never even replied to me. And then I had emailed my old lecturer, who was now head of school, and I thought she may remember I had that first. Maybe. He never replied. Nobody ever replied. And then it was like in the last week of my council job, I started my period. And I played through, and I thought, oh, going into Tesco's, get myself a new pair of knickers and scarf. I know it's not embarrassing. It was what happened. And I never go to Tesco's. I don't like Tesco. And as I am in Tesco, who should I bump into? The old head of school, the new head of school, my old lecturer. She said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm looking for a job." And she said, "Oh, yeah." She says, "Come in next week and have a chat." Yes. So what had happened, they had someone on long-term sick, and the other lecturers weren't very happy to cover for her all the time, and she was probably quite desperate to find somebody on the hop, and she thought, "Well, she'll do." And just that coincidence, isn't it? So, yeah. So I came in, I just came in like that. It wasn't an interview, it was a chat. And she just said, "Oh, how would you like to teach for us?" It's like, yeah, yes, I do want to do it. So, heck of a coincidence, but all meant to be, really. So, I started in Trinity in 2014. I taught on a couple of different programs because I'm a little bit dual, social inclusion and education, and also teaching English. So that's been a really, really enjoyable experience. And unfortunately, Ronja's father and I split up in the middle of it all. That's why I was so desperate for a job. I was on my own by then. So I had to stand on my own 2 feet, as they say. And Trinity, I was working there full time initially, and now I've been able to cut down to 3 days to do more gardening and volunteering and stuff like that, which is really nice. And yeah, we only got 2 more slides to go through. Don't worry, this was the longest one, I promise. So what I realized, so when I first came to Wales, I felt quite on my own. I still am a little bit different, but I was really different. I didn't know what was going down. But you're not on your own. So it's really important to find allies. So you probably all got friends, and hopefully most of you have got some family. But it's these allies that you need. I think Ronja was talking about that, all her friends who are going back into work. So it's allies. So who are your allies? Where can you find them? Because your friends aren't necessarily your allies. You could go out drinking with them or with a baby group or something. But if you have a plan, it could be a plan. You need allies. You need somebody who's a little bit experienced, somebody who can help you. And going volunteering or going to college or going to university or doing any sort of course, that's where you will find those allies who have maybe similar struggles to you, but also a similar idea. You know, there is something I want to do. And you are never on your own. And that's where the second part, you need to know yourself, what is your mindset. So on our foundation degree, we have, I'd say the average age maybe is 35, 40 for students. And the people who do best are the ones who talk to their peers and ask for help. And the people who, not many fail, but the people who drop out are the ones who don't ask for help. I always say, and this is actually true, you can't fail our foundation degree unless you stop talking to us, because there's so much support available. There's counseling, there is mental health support, there's one-to-one support for dyslexia and things. We are there, the other students are there. it's the people around you that carry you quite often, and you carry them. So we have, for each cohort of students, we have a WhatsApp group, and the lecturers are in it as well. And, you know, somebody will ask a question, oh, what do we need to put on the PowerPoint? And everybody will help. And if they can't sort it out, then I will step in, or if somebody gives the answer, that's a bit shady. So it's really asking for help and feeling that you're not on your own. And that can sometimes feel difficult, isn't it, to approach somebody for help if you don't know them very well. That's just maybe one thing I would really stress. So what's your mindset? Yeah, who are you? What are you strong in? What are you weak in? You know, help others with your strengths and get help with your weaknesses. And it will really work. So I think Anya actually talked about this as well. Taking risks, isn't it? Starting something new. Risk. Yeah. So sometimes people say, and it's sarcastic, isn't it? What could possibly go wrong? And it's a mindset, isn't it? What if we said, what's the worst thing that can happen? Yeah. So that's sometimes a good scenario to go through. What is the worst thing that can happen? And actually, the worst thing probably isn't that bad. Yeah, we're probably not very specific about what could be the worst thing. And then also ask the other question, what's the best thing that can happen? So, yeah, and that's it for me.